The GameCube is a collector's paradise, and for RPG fans who likely already have a sickness, it can be a huge money pit. But still, the nostalgia for the GameCube might run deeper than the pockets. If you grew up with the GameCube, you might have to reach down deep to be able to afford these, holy moly. Let's see some games and let's see some numbers. These are the most expensive RPGs for the GameCube. Lost Kingdoms 2. Ironically, Lost Kingdoms 2, it's ironic because the title had a limited release in North America and Europe, making it relatively rare compared to other GameCube games. Limited availability often drives up the price in the collector's market, right? Despite being released in these limited quantities, there seems to be a pretty dedicated, small fan base that stand up for this game. The biggest applause I've seen about it touts it as considerably better than the original game. That's gotta be a good thing, right? Improvement? While the game has some lukewarm Metacritic scores from critics, the general consensus of all 18 people that regarded it on Metacritic say it's pretty good. This game is one of those RPGs that really focuses on card battle mechanics, and it seems that these have gained a bit more popularity as time has gone on, like Slay the Spire, for example. Just like most card RPGs, the player collects cards and uses them to cast spells and summon creatures in combat. This sincerely sets it apart from other RPGs on the GameCube, since there were no other card RPGs on the GameCube to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. I'm typically not crazy about card games like this, and had I purchased this unknowingly back in the day, I would have been just a little upsetty spaghetti.
You triggered my trap card!
No, just let me choose my attacks from a menu, please. Attack, item, block, whatever. Just I don't want to use a card. I don't want to use a card. But I get it has an appeal for a lot of people. I can appreciate it for sure. It's not for me. Because of its uniqueness and the fact that it's an RPG among the few RPGs on the GameCube, and the desire for so many people to collect complete GameCube collections nowadays, it's driven the price up considerably. But wait, there's more! Did I mention that it's a From Software game?
Ooh-wee! Amen to that!
Tag that on there, it's like working designs, money, money, money. Yeah, that'll drive the price up too. Fans of From Software, the people that created Demon's Souls and Kingsfield and those sorts of games, those collectors are avid as well. Even if it were a bad game, though it's not, it would probably command a higher price tag than normal simply because it's also a product of From Software. This game will run you about $160 for a complete copy. Skies of Arcadia Legends. Initially, Skies of Arcadia came out on the Dreamcast in the year 2000. It was incredibly well received on the Dreamcast, and then 2 years later, it was released on the GameCube. The GameCube version added some new missions, some more weapons, and used the higher processing power of the GameCube to give the game a bit of a makeup overhaul sort of thing. Despite the upgrades on the GameCube version, apparently the original is still incredibly solid, and fans suggest that choosing either is a good choice regardless. The draw for me in Skies of Arcadia is the story and the setting, which is pretty important to an RPG, right? The setup is a bunch of floating islands where players follow a sky pirate and his friends as they explore the skies and battle against a large empire. Oh yeah, stick it to the man. The story focuses on themes of friendship, bravery, and the pursuit of freedom, and of course, hey, I can get behind that. The visuals in this game are enormously charming, from the character models to the varied and often bright settings. Playing as a sky pirate in the lush world of Arcadia is a dream come true for RPG lovers. Of course, part of the high price of this game is the fact that it's a solid game, and it's worth playing through, of course. The setup is actually sort of unique among other RPGs. I mean, how many Sky Pirate RPGs do you know? That's not rhetorical. I want to play more games like this, so I need to know. Comments, please, please. This game hasn't been re-released to my knowledge. I was hoping it would get some Steam love like so many other Sega games, but that doesn't seem to be the case at the moment. This, of course, too drives the price up. It's hard to get a hold of. Of course, we can emulate it, but for those seeking to play it legitimately, you're looking at the physical release on the GameCube or on the Dreamcast, and that comes at a premium price. I can't help but think it'd be appropriate to pirate this game. Oh, let me note this too. There seems to be a spiritual successor coming out in 2024 with the release of Sky Ocean's Wings for Hire. And let me tell you, this thing looks freaking awesome. I'll definitely be picking that one up. Skies of Arcadia Legends will cost you about $160 for a complete in-box copy. And it just goes up from there. Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 Plus. This game was also actually released first on the GameCube. When Sega gave up the dream and left the hardware race, they started making games for other consoles, and so this game got ported from the Sega Dreamcast to the GameCube. This game had quite the cult following. I particularly heard about it from Johnny Millennium, the happy console gamer, when he was talking about playing this MMO so much back in the day. Now, I didn't have the pleasure of playing this one back in the day, but I know the experience with MMOs. His story resonated with me because I played EverQuest so long in my youth, and I continue to revisit it to this day every once in a while. While I have responsibilities now that don't afford me the same amount of time that I had back when I was a teenager, I can still get a wild hair and delve into an MMO every once in a while. But, of course, it's just a lot harder on the body nowadays. It's an itch that doesn't seem to go away and a wound that just never seems to heal. It's fair to assume this game is a banger anyway, since it was developed by Sonic Team and published by Sega. They don't always hit, but when they do, woo-hoo-hoo, when they do hit, they hit. The Plus version of the game made many of the online quests doable offline, which is, of course, for players looking to complete the experience, an incredibly desirable thing. I mean, personally, for me in particular, I'd much rather have this offline option available. Knowing that I can access this stuff without the internet or the servers is worth the price difference, or at least a continued hunt until I find the proper copy. The game is set in the Phantasy Star universe, big surprise there, and players take on the role of hunters exploring different planets. This setup didn't restrict players to much, as they were able to create their own characters, choose classes, you know that old shtick. The game had a real-time combat system which looks pretty solid, and the game allowed people to play together locally or online to take on missions, quests, and bosses. Despite the official servers going down, the availability to play the game offline through the Plus game for GameCube probably doesn't help the price much. Besides this, there are private servers that players can access, even to this day, so dedicated fans can continue their fun through those servers. I mean, if I were able to play EverQuest just locally with buddies whenever the server went down, I'd be willing to pay some hefty bucks for that as well. Which, I mean, I guess I am able to play EverQuest with time-logged servers, right? Maybe I should stop doing videos. Maybe I should go play EverQuest. Maybe I should abandon my job and my family. It makes sense why this game goes for 180 bucks complete. Woo-hoo-hoo! Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness. Maybe part of the appeal of this game is that it's a Pokemon experience that's a little different than the tried and true formula Nintendo typically offers. And that's saying quite a bit, since every Pokemon game from Red to Scarlet has been the same thing over and over and over and over. Instead of capturing Pokemon like normal in a Pokemon game, you have to steal them in Pokemon Gale of Darkness. Now this, I can get behind that. It's like Cruella de Vil or something, except you plan to battle the Dalmatians instead of turn them into coats, or make coats out of Pokemon. Either way, I always did want to be the villain. Pokemon games in general are highly collectible, and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness is no exception. It is sought after by collectors who aim to complete their Pokemon game collections, or obtain specific Pokemon titles. If this doesn't hit the nail on the head about Pokemon fans, I don't know what does. You want proof? Why do you think Nintendo is making double off you every time they release a new game? I'm just teasing, I do the same thing. I mean, this is a video about RPG prices. I'm certainly the pot calling the kettle black here. I'm sick. I have a problem. Somebody send help, please. Gale of Darkness goes for about 200 bucks complete in the box, and I suppose that's understandable. I owned it several times and I never got around to playing it. And I have to admit, despite not really liking Pokemon that much, I think I could get behind Gale of Darkness or Coliseum easier than some of the others. Maybe this one's actually worth the money. Before we get to the last entry on the list, and maybe you already know what that is, let me encourage you, if you like this sort of content, I'd appreciate a subscribe from you, a like, share the video, whatever the case may be. Any kind of input you have, I'd love to hear it. Thank you so much. Let's move on. Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance. Oh, here we go. Fire Emblem, my Thinky Man's game. It's honestly a shame that this game is so expensive because, from what I hear, as I own it but I have yet to play it, it's totally worth the price. This Fire Emblem is where we get to see Ike, and likely why we got Ike in Smash Brothers. I know that Ike is a freaking powerhouse in Smash Brothers, and I hear that he trucks in this game as well. I'm a pretty staunch fan of the newer Fire Emblem games. I'm sure I'd love the older ones as well, but I haven't gotten around to playing them beyond maybe 3 or 4 hours in the first GBA one we got here in the States. I've played through Awakening, Shadows of Valencia, 3 Houses, and I'm working on Engage currently. They take time, sure, but the story is always an absolute banger about political intrigue and then some wild magical stuff. And that's right up my alley, 'cause I'm a sucker for it. I love the difficulty in these games. Permadeath just really ramps up the difficulty, but admittedly, I'm definitely one of the people that, more often than not, just resets the game when someone dies. I'm not dealing with that mess. I like the difficulty, but I like to have options too, you know? It seems most Fire Emblem games have some sort of unique feature that makes it stand out from the rest of the Fire Emblem games, and this one apparently includes some shape-shifting abilities for the characters, allowing them to change into animals during combat. As this game has not received any sort of re-release beyond the GameCube, it makes sense that it is expensive. Fire Emblem collecting is frantic and glorious. As glorious as died on the field of battle! Not really, but whatever. The collector's editions for this game are always very pretty, the art's gorgeous. It's natural that RPG fans would seek out this subset as well. So not only do you have Fire Emblem fans, you have RPG fans in general, and then you have GameCube collectors also jockeying for position to get a copy of this game. Plus just Nintendo collectors. There's a lot of people that want this game. That ridiculous demand's gonna drive that price up. Maybe we could get a collection in the future. This might drive the prices back down, but I doubt it. It would be nice to get a collection of these games just to get access and exposure of the games out to folks who don't want to resort to piracy, or sky piracy. If you're after this one, it's the most expensive RPG on the GameCube, sitting at around $250 for a complete copy, and on the up and up consistently. There you go, you have the most expensive RPGs on the GameCube. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you have any comments, I would love to hear them. I read every single comment that I get. I love replying to people in the comments and talking about this sort of stuff because gaming discourse is important, and we should continue.